Hello everybody, Tim W. Rago here, games, movies, and vlogs, even though I haven't played games in a while, but still, how the hell is everybody? And welcome to Paleo Files episode 3 with our KONGATHON, because apparently I said it wrong I said it weird. But anyways, we are now on the next Kong solo movie, oh shit, I'm sorry, I forgot, I'm here with fellow Creature Fanatic and Instagrammer, I'm sorry folks. Man, I fucked that up.
Okay, so my introduction. Alright.
Yeah,
so,
sorry about that, folks.
How's it going, folks? Jurassic World Monsterverse here. Welcome back to another Paleo Reviews review. This is another installment, another solo Kong film we're doing in the Kong franchise in honor of the Big Monkeys, the Big Apes 90th anniversary. So this time we're doing Kingkongescapes by Toho, released in 1967. So enjoy and let's get through it.
Yeah, so right off the bat, it was so interesting. And also, I gotta do this for this actor in this movie. Rest in peace, Akira Takarada, who passed away. I think it was like last year or a year. I think it was last year is when he passed away. He was one of the big actors in Toho. He played in like a lot of Godzilla movies, and he played in this movie as well. So rest in peace to honestly one of the best actors of Toho ever.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
But anyways, this movie it's actually really interesting because it's based on a cartoon. It's based on an American cartoon, literally just called the King Kong Show, that was made during the 60s, and the company that made it, Rankin Bass Productions, actually approached Toho and asked them to make this movie. So they made a deal with Toho to do this, but Toho was given the go-ahead to do their own thing with the ideas the show had. And this movie, man, this is just one of those movies where it's just Toho doing their shit. Like, it's just Toho doing what they know how to do. You know?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I watched this film, and to me, this film, it still stands out to me as one of my top favorite Toho kaiju flicks that isn't
that's not a good related. Yeah, same with me here.
Yeah, so that is something that is something to do with kaiju, but isn't
that's not Godzilla related.
But it's outside the Godzilla franchise. So, but as a King Kong film, I wouldn't say it's a terrible movie, and it's not a movie where you say, like with most films, where, like with giant monster flicks, it's a film where you think it's like, oh, it's so bad, it's good. It's nothing like that. But for me, as a Kong film, it's very, it's just a film that I can only best describe as, meh, just a meh film, as a Kong film. And as a Kong film, it's rather forgettable because, like, I feel as though, because, like, with some of my followers on Instagram, they do, a lot of movie rankings, they do Godzilla movie rankings, Gamma movie rankings, and when they do King Kong movie rankings, they tend to forget King Kong Escapes, and I'm often like, well, where's King Kong Escapes? So it's I don't mean this in an offensive way, because like I said, it is one of my favourite kaiju flicks that it doesn't have anything to do with the Godzilla franchise. But as a Kong film, it is a forgettable movie. So, but like, I've talked enough here, so I'm gonna let my bro here do most of the talking now.
Yeah, I got you. No, I got you, dude. And the weird thing is, I'm like, I will admit, like, this is one of my favorite non-Godzilla movies, and as well here. But the thing is, though, is like the reason why that it kind of, because I was even telling you this when we were watching the movie, that it's with your boy. It's like the other two creatures, well, three in this movie, they all look good. Well, Mechanic Kong, like, I don't know why they made its arms stick out every time the thing walks. Like, that's the weird thing about that suit, is that it freaking sticks its arms out the whole time. Like, what the fuck?
It kind of looks like Zeke Yeager's Beast Titan from Attack on Titan.
Oh my god. Oh, good lord. But I just don't know what I just don't know what it is. Like Kong is the only monster in this movie that it's just like they. I don't know why Toho felt the need to have multiple puppets for him. Like I don't know why. Like the other three monsters in this movie, like Gorosaurus, which is like the best looking creature in this movie, hands down.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
suit, the Gorosaurus suit. I don't know what it is about reptiles. You ever notice this in movies? I don't know what it is about reptiles. Whether the effects are practical or CGI. Why is it that reptiles look better than mammals? Like, you ever notice that? Like, reptiles look better than
true.
mammals do.
Like, whenever they're like stop motion or played by some dude in a suit, they look better. I don't know why.
Reptiles do look a lot better, and Gorosaurus is no exception. Like this suit for this guy,
prime exception.
Exactly.
Like we were saying like how real it looked. It looked like an actual dinosaur. That's how good it looked. Like with this film, like there are quite a few good movies, and I think the one that stands out the most that people. Like when people will start to remember Kingkongescapes, they'll immediately remember the fight between Kong and Gorosaurus. An obvious callback to when Kong fought the T-Rex in 1933. And of course there's, that epic fight in Tokyo where Kong and Mechanic Kong are fighting on the, what's it called?
Tokyo Tower, yeah.
Yeah.
And what's actually kind of crazy is I love the... And then there's like the random snake fight. Like there's this random sea serpent thing that shows up, and I think the only reason
I just call it a giant sea snake. I like sea snakes are one of my favorite reptiles.
But what's so funny is like so far we've seen Kong fight like sea serpent looking creatures. Like in 33 he fought that Tanistrophes looking thing, and then in Sock he fought like the Nothosaur looking deal, which kind of looks very serpentine-ish. That model looked very serpentine kind of, and now in this movie Kong fights his giant sea snake that literally just comes out of absolute nowhere. Like this thing literally just swimming along, and Kong just goes in the water and starts beating it up.
Really, if you think about it, Kong's two major enemies throughout his franchise are mostly just theropods and snakes.
That's true. I don't know what it is. Like, I guess because gorillas eat plants.
He doesn't like reptiles. He's not a reptile fan.
Yeah, I know, but it's so weird. Yeah, but when it comes to herbivores, though, because gorillas do eat plants, I guess like he's fine with that. Because herbivores because the only thing herbivores would do is just roar at him for a minute. Like they wouldn't really do much. But the one thing there are a few effects cons that I've seen watching this movie, and the main amount of effects cons is with Kong. Like you have the main suit that was played by. Before I get to that, I love the fact that the actor who played as Godzilla. The actor who played as Godzilla, Haro Nakajima, is who played as Kong in this movie. Now, I do know that Nakajima he played Rodan, he's played Varan, he played in Mothra.
Oh yeah, he's played so many different.
But the thing, but what I'm saying is like
a lot of Godzilla fans, they would often, or kaiju fans as a whole, really, they often credit him the most for playing Godzilla in many different Godzilla films throughout the years. But they tend to forget that he's been more than Godzilla. He's been Rodan, Kong, Varan. He's been
Gyra. He was Gyra in War of the Gargantuas.
Yeah.
I think he was also Baragon in Frankenstein Conquers the World. I think he played Baragon in that movie. I think he was. I think he also played as Baragon. But what I'm saying is that I love the fact that Kong and Godzilla are two of the most iconic movie monsters in film history, and Haro Nakajima can go down in history saying he's played both of them. Like, I love the fact that he can say
that's impressive, and that's impressive.
That is impressive. That he's literally can say I've played both Godzilla and Kong. Like I've been both of those characters, and that's
rest in peace to that legend as well, man. Best piece of him.
Exactly, and also one thing about Kong, what I was trying to get to is, it's just you have the main suit that Nakajima wears throughout the movie, which I'm not gonna lie, I like this suit way better than in King Kong vs. Godzilla because.
Oh yeah, no, there's definitely an improvement.
Because in King Kong vs. Godzilla, Kong looked like roadkill. He looked like roadkill in that movie. He friggin' looked like roadkill. But the thing I didn't like the most about that suit, and again, people, you've heard me talk about this part of the body a lot, but in King Kong vs. Godzilla, the main thing I don't like about that suit are the papier-mâché looking eyes. I don't know what it is about Kong's eyes in King Kong vs. Godzilla, but they look papier-mâché as fuck. And then then you've got like paper monkey. Oh, good God, it's paper monkey. But then you have King Kong Escapes, and King Kong Escapes actually, like, I love how Kong's anatomy in this movie actually looks like what a gorilla really looks like with the short legs and
with the bodily proportions.
Yeah, it looks. He has like the short legs and the long arms, but again with the eyes, the freaking bulgy ass, cartoony looking eyes. Like what the hell?
Yeah.
And we're supposed to feel sympathetic towards this thing. Like what is with these big bulgy eyes that he has?
Yeah, exactly. You're like with Kong, like with each film, you feel more sympathetic for him as the next film goes by. But with this film, like, you do in a way, but it's just with the way he looks. And, like, how do I feel sympathy for something that looks like that?
Yeah, and actually, the weird thing about it is, like I was saying, you have the main suit that Nakajima wore most of the movie, and then there's also a puppet where his upper lip moves when he's trying to snarl, and then there's another suit where it's like a short person wore it, and his face looks like a chimp. You got chimp face suit, and then
I must say, like,
I don't know why they had to use I don't know why they use multiple different things for him. They could have just used the one suit.
I mean, I must say, like, when it comes to like the scenes with him, curling his upper lip, I do appreciate it that they're trying to go for a more like a realistic sort of feel to it, but it's like. And they're trying to, but with just how it looks, it doesn't come off as realistic,
Exactly. And then there's I pointed out, like, during the sea snake fight, where there's a suit where the head, compared to the body, is, like, massive, where the head looks huge compared to the body, which is... That was a separate suit. That was just weird in itself, where his eyes are, like, really bulgy on that freaking thing. And then there's the chimp face. I don't know what is with the chimp face suit is the one thing that I really can't stand looking at. And because when they transition from the chimp face to the bigger suit, you clearly see Kong's got two different faces going on. Like, you clearly shows. But other than that, I say, like, the special effects in this movie are... I mean, it's Toho. Toho knows how to do good effects work.
Yeah, Toho, yeah.
Yeah, they know how to do... They do know how to do great effects.
I must ask you, because I don't really know the answer to this myself. I must ask, so with you saying, Kong's appearance changes slightly from scene to scene as we go through this film.
Yeah.
Do you know the reason as to why that is?
I honestly don't know. I never really knew why Kong. They had multiple things for. They had like multiple effects for him when they could have just.
Designs, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it's all the same character, so they had like multiple different little things to portray him, like with the smaller puppet here, a smaller suit there. Like, I don't know why I don't know why they did that. That's kind of, it just feels off. But I will say one thing.
I only asked because, because you know more of this stuff.
I know, yeah.
Stuff more than I do. So
yeah, I don't mean to brag, folks.
You're normally the guy who has all the answers. You're an encyclopedia of this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I don't mean to sound braggy with that, but when you're into this since I was like 4 years old, so yeah, I looked up a lot of this shit. But, not shit. When I say shit, folks, I'm not meaning that in a bad way. I mean, I'm just talking here. But I don't know why they did that. It just feels off. But the main suit just looks aside from the bulgy eyes, you know, the main suit that Nakajima wore, just, it looks good. Like, that actually does kind of look like it's a real animal. But the Gorosaurus suit is, like, the best freaking thing.
Oh, yeah.
And what's so weird about Gorosaurus is that this is his debut this is his first movie, and then he would go in to play in Destroy All Monsters with Godzilla, like, a year later.
It's a shame he's only made 2 appearances. Like, I know, like, any other Godzilla films, we eventually see him make a comeback, but they're only cameos. So, like, you know, they're cameos from this.
Yeah, exactly.
But in a Godzilla franchise, really, he's only ever made 1 appearance, and that's in Destroy All Monsters.
Well, actually, if you count Godzilla's Revenge, he made a cameo, but it was stock footage from King Kong Escapes, actually, where they recycled the same scene. So I don't really know if you would count that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to
reviewing that fucking thing. No, but anyways, we're getting off topic here. But it's all Toho, so can't really be helped. So it can't really be helped.
It's in the
same
universe.
But what's actually crazy is I love, like, and I know I said this when we were watching it, I love the set design. Like, I love the miniature sets that Toho made, especially the South Pole. Like, the Mondo Island, like that, the jungle set looks gorgeous, and then you've got the South Pole, and I love how there's no blizzards, apparently. No, North Pole, sorry, it was North Pole. I love how there's no blizzards in that part of the world, because usually you're in the North Pole, there's usually snow blizzards and shit, but there's no blizzards in that entire bit, like, every time they show it. And then we're introduced to Kong trying to find, you know, built by, and now we lead into the human cast, because the human cast it coincides with the monsters. I mean, here you have Doctor Who. No, not that Doctor Who. The Japanese Doctor Who.
Oh, man.
And
me and my bro here, we were joking about this character all night long when we were watching this movie, because he's just so stereotypical, cliche of every villain imaginable.
Exactly. And also, it doesn't help the fact that he literally, like, you kept making the joke, he looks like a Japanese Japula, basically. He's like a Japanese Dracula.
Japula.
Because he wears a cape. Like, his cape looks like something Dracula would wear. Like, he literally has a Dracula-looking cape.
He has the habits and the look of the stereotypical cliche villain. And with, you know, I think Toho spent too much time watching Western movies. I mean, like movies in the Western side of the world is what I meant to say, not what you think.
Yeah.
But like Western, you know, stereotypical cliche Western movies where the villain wears a cloak, he has a unibrow, he has a mustache. Even though he doesn't have a mustache, Doctor Who doesn't have a mustache, but I'm just saying. But like, he's drinking wine, he's drinking tea, he's playing chess.
And also the fact that and also the way he says "shut up" at one point. He's just like, "Shut up!"
Yeah.
Like, it's the way he says it.
That's another thing villains do too. It's just like, you know, it's just like out of nowhere, just like, "Shut up."
Like, I don't know why, but that's what makes him fun. Oh, and also he has a big ass ego. Like, he has a really huge. This guy has a huge ego, especially with We're introduced to him very early on in the movie. Like, we're introduced to him, like, literally 5 minutes into this thing. And it's so funny, like, when they show Mechanicong, and then all of a sudden you have Doctor Who going, like, he's bragging about how amazing this robot is, and how much of a genius. He does this throughout the movie, and he just brags on how much of a genius he is. And then but what's actually cool is we watched the English dub version of this, by the way, which is like the version everyone knows of this movie. And the cool thing about it is the guy who does Doctor Who's English voice is famous old-time voice actor Paul Frees, also known as the Man of 1,000 Voices. And I love the fact that's who does Doctor Who. You can hear by James's voice that he's never known that until I said that. But Paul Frees, the Man of 1,000 Voices, is who does Doctor Who. It does Doctor Who's dubbed voice in this movie.
Oh, that's awesome!
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. So that's what you got. you got the dudes acting, you got the Japanese actors acting mixed with Paul Frees, and the villain's just fucking great to watch. He's so damn good to.
You just got a perfect villain right there.
Exactly, but I just love the fact, like, when I love, like, he brags so damn much about Kong at the beginning of this movie, and he works for this woman, this Oriental woman named Madame Piranha. Her name is. I'm not kidding. That's her actual name. And she says she's from some Asian country, but they never say what country it is, which is kind of odd. And they're looking for this thing, and we're saying this for those who have not seen this movie. They're looking for this element called Element X, which is basically
it's highly
like the equivalent to plutonium, basically. Like it's the other equivalent to plutonium, and they let Kong dig for it because it's radioactive, and people can't go near it because it's radioactive. So Kong goes in, and everything goes good, and I love that Kong has like a utility belt with grenades on it with like, explosives. That was a nice touch, and Kong goes in this cavern where Element X is, and the radiation fries him, like literally makes him short circuit. He
just drops dead. He just stops working.
And the way he goes, he slumps over a rock, and then he just lays there.
He just like topples over in this really like slow sort of way.
And then they're saying like, and then yeah, that's a great way to introduce your villain monster, by the way, is have him get fucked up at the beginning of the movie. Like, yeah, this is a nice way to introduce your villain monster.
And I've got to say, like not even like 5 minutes in, we're introduced to the main villain and the villain monster, and already it's just action right away. But I will say, like with the scenes, especially with the fight scenes with either Gorosaurus and Kong or Mechanic Kong and Kong, it's kind of a weird sentence to say.
It is,
like, one thing that I especially love about this movie is the soundtrack. It's got an epic soundtrack.
Oh yeah, and a score done. It's Akira Ifukube. Like his music is honestly some of the best. Oh, especially the scene especially the music that plays while Kong is fighting Gorosaurus. Like you hear the music swell up. You hear like you hear that swelling up music when Gorosaurus shows up. And then you just have, like, that really crazy fight scene. But I just love, like, how in that fight where Kong kills Gorosaurus by doing the classic jaw crunch, like, he shoves his mouth open.
He just breaks his jaw, right?
Yeah, exactly. He just shoves his mouth open with foam coming out of it, which is kind of weird, like, the weird effect they did with...
It's like spittle of some kind.
It is. It's like mouth foam, you know, where an animal's rabid or something, you got foam. It foams at the mouth. So they have that, and then... I
remember seeing that, like, and I was just like, bubbles?
Yeah, I know, that effect is actually a little off, but then, you know, then you just have, what do you call... Oh, and then another thing of the human cat... See, okay, before I talk about the rest of the cast, the thing about this movie is that with other Toho movies, you know, when it comes to human villains, sometimes they tend to not really introduce, whether the villain is a monster or a person, they tend to not introduce it until like 30 minutes in or 40 minutes into the movie or something like that. But this movie is one of those rare occasions where they introduce them right off the bat. Like they introduce the villains and the villain monster straight up. Like they straight up get right to the point. And one weird thing is, you know, when it comes to the human cast of this movie, there's one weird exception, which is the character of Lieutenant Watson, played by Linda Miller. You know, it's so weird that her voice... This woman had to have really sucked at her line delivery while they were making the Japanese version, because in the Japanese version, she's dubbed over, and in the American version, she's dubbed over as well, which is kind of...
That just doesn't make sense to me. Like, you got an American actress who can speak, you know...
Perfect English.
Yeah, perfect English, and what's the point of having another American woman woman's also capable of speaking perfect English, dub her over.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what I mean. Like, on set, that woman must have really sucked at her line delivery if they had to dub her over twice. But then you've got, like, actor Akira Takarada in this movie, and I will admit, he doesn't really do much in this movie, because when he's in a Godzilla movie, he does a lot in the Godzilla movies, but in this movie, they didn't really give him that much to work with, to be perfectly honest. They didn't really but the main actor, the main standout character of this movie, other than Doctor Who, is Lieutenant Carl Nelson, played by Rhodes Reason. And I just love, like, how Carl Nelson, if you can kind of see where I'm going here, he kind of reminds you a little bit of, like, a more nicer version of Jack Driscoll from the 1933 movie. Like, Carl Nelson's like this he's kind of like the American hero of this movie, and he's kind of acts a little bit like Jack Driscoll from 1933 a little bit, except he's not a dick, except he's not an asshole that decks women in the face. I don't mean to bring that up, but it's just I can't get that scene out of my head now. But I don't know, what'd you ever think of Rhodes Reason's, like, his acting in this movie? Like, the way he acts, like, I don't know why, like, I kind of enjoyed it, but what do you think it's like how he speaks to everybody? Like, what'd you ever think of the character of Carl Nelson?
Honestly, I'm not too sure, because, like when it comes to the Toho kaiju flicks, I'm really more focused and concentrated on the kaiju rather than the human side of the story itself. So yeah, with that, I did try. I tried paying attention, but yeah, with this movie, I've got to say as well, like, after not watching it for several years, like I said, it was nice catching up on it, but, like, I don't really remember having less kaiju action and more human drama. Like, for a movie that's an hour and 36 minutes, there's only
there's 29 minutes and 53 seconds of creature out of this entire movie from beginning to end.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a MonsterVerse flick in a way, where
it focuses more on the people. It's kind of like how Godzilla 2014 focused more on the people rather than the monsters. Oh, so that's actually one thing I do agree with, is that this movie could have had at least like 35 minutes of monster in it, easy. Like, this movie could have done at least like 35 minutes of creature scenes.
Yeah, even 40 minutes would have done.
That too. Because what's so weird is when you're not looking at the scenes without the creatures in it, it kind of feels like there's two different movies going on, because the whole point of this movie is Doctor Who and Madame Piranha trying to go after Element X, right? And at one point, the real Kong gets, like, after Mechanicong fails, Doctor Who goes after the real Kong by basically pulling a Carl Denham and gas bombing his ass, but they knock him out with ether gas, but it's still a gas bomb. So they gas bomb.
I gotta say, because like I said a couple of times now, like, I haven't seen this movie for a couple of years, so the only part I really likes, like with most Kong fans, like I said, this is a rather forgettable movie, but I don't mean that in a bad way or a mean way at all. But, like, they're like the part that obviously stands out the most is the fight between Gorosaurus and Kong. There's a scene here when they're like sedating Kong, or like trying to capture Kong. That's very similar to Kong Skull Island, and where Kong fights
when he fights the helicopters. Because you said that,
and he's throwing trees at them and things like that.
Exactly, I remember you said that.
It's made me wonder. This has got to be that scene from Kong Skull Island. It's got to be inspired a little from that scene.
I'm pretty sure it was, actually, and also the way that Kong gets carried away in Escapes here. The way he gets carried away. You ever notice in Godzilla vs. Kong, the way he's carried under the net by the helicopters looks a little reminiscent of that?
I really think it's more of a KingKongescapes Easter egg rather than a King Kong vs. Godzilla Easter egg. Because the way they carried him is more similar to how they carried Kong in King Kong escapes. You know.
And what's compared to the freaking like carry Kong with balloons like they did in King Kong versus Godzilla, they carried him with like giant helium balloons.
Yeah.
In this movie, the way they carry Kong is actually like a lot better. But you gotta admit, the scenes with Kong, like when he wakes up in Doctor Who's underground base, the moment with him where he's in the cage and you see like you can easily do the meme where Kong is just like, "Yep, this is me. You're probably all wondering how I got in this fucking situation." You know what I mean? And then like Doctor Who just like actually hypnotizes Kong. Like Kong gets hypnotized. Like he literally gets hypnotized, and he tells
by a disco ball.
Yeah, by a disco ball, pretty much. Yeah, and then he tells Kong to dig.
Covered in jelly beans.
Yeah, exactly. But what's so funny is, and this is what I was mentioning about when you were talking about the music earlier. Like, I love the song where Kong, where he's fully hypnotized and Doctor Who tells him to go in the cavern where Element X is. And I love the song that plays and I think this is the first movie that uses it, actually. Where the song, because they use that song a lot in Godzilla vs. Gigan, actually. Where it's like the song that goes, dun 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 dun. That song,
yeah.
I don't know why, like, that's like honestly one of my favorite songs out of this movie is that one.
You know, when it comes to, other kaiju flicks outside of the Godzilla franchise, like even the soundtrack for them, they sound very, very similar, and I think it's because they're mostly all composed by the same guy. What's his name again?
Akira Ifukube. I know the Japanese names are really hard to pronounce.
Yeah, well, so I got to apologize for this, folks. With the Japanese names, I'm not very good at pronouncing. So
same with me. Same with me, folks. They are very hard to pronounce, actually. So same with me. So if we mess up any of them, it's just hard to pronounce. So we apologize for that.
So back to what I was saying. Like, with the soundtrack, like, dun, 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 it's like, I heard a similar soundtrack from Destroy All Monsters, Godzilla vs. Gigan, all the other ones. It sounds exactly like that.
And that's actually, one of the funny, and also, I love, like, how this movie kind of takes the title very seriously, because there's a bit where, because after the radiation from Element X makes Kong like snap out of the hypnosis, and that's never explained, and they don't need to explain that. But it just makes Kong like wake up, and he reverts back to his normal self, and he runs.
He wakes up from like this trance, and then he tries breaking out, and I'm like, oh, this movie does take itself seriously. King Kong escapes.
Yeah, exactly. And then but then they lock him down. Like Doctor Who shuts the entrance to the tunnel. And then we get back to the human characters of Doctor Who trying to make them like, oh, well, I tried the robot, that didn't work worth a damn. I tried the real Kong, that didn't work either. Oh, so how about I kidnap the only 3 humans on this planet that Kong trusts to make him do it? Like, oh, okay, so now you're really gonna like just kidnap people? Okay, all right, Mr. Cliche, go ahead and do it.
But then, stereotypical cliche Japula.
Yeah, Japula, yeah. It's so funny, like, they torture, like, Doctor Who, the way he messes with everybody, like, with Carl Nelson, Doctor Who has, like, he knows the guy already, like, because he used to work with him, I guess. They had, like, some odd working relationship, I guess, back in the day. They never really fully go into that, which I think they kind of should have, but then with Akira Takarada and Linda Miller, he messes with them, and he tortures them pretty much, and then all of a sudden, like, Kong just busts his way out of the tunnel, and yeah, like the title says, King Kong escapes. Like, it's so funny, it's so weird how this movie just takes it, like, you look at the Godzilla movies, right, and you say, like, if, for example, you have the title, like, Godzilla vs. Gigan, or Godzilla vs. Megalon, that's the title. You have Godzilla fighting both those monsters. But King Kong Escapes is just like, he literally escapes at one point from Doctor Who. Like, he literally escapes.
It reminds me, because, like, yesterday, I went to go and see Cocaine Bear for the first time, and honestly, it was a solid movie.
Yeah.
Easily the best movie of this year by far. I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10. But there's this, but you know how with certain movies, like the title of the movie has its name dropped in the film by a character?
They do, yeah. A lot of movies do
in
that.
Cocaine Bear, they actually call it that.
They call it Cocaine Bear? They actually call it that?
The Cocaine Bear.
Oh my god. A bear did coke! I'm sorry, folks, but since that movie just came out this week, it's still pretty prevalent today, so I'm sorry if we keep making jokes about or references to it. We can't help it. It's that good of a damn movie. But anyways, I just love, but then also, like, Kong, when I'm just gonna do it, King Kong Escapes, it's so funny to say the title because the movie takes it serious. Like, I love how Kong just jumps in the water, and Mechanic Kong, he walks after him, and then he stops because he can't go in the water. And Kong is just like, I'm just swimming away. I'm swimming out of this shit because I'm done with your ass. And then they follow him to Tokyo, which apparently in the Toho Monsterverse gets very bad luck because it has been destroyed God knows how many times.
That city has the worst luck on the planet. That poor city. I'm surprised they don't just leave it be.
Like, literally, look at, like, Godzilla.
They don't just move away from it.
I know, like, Godzilla destroyed it first, and then you got, then Rodan did it, 2 years later. And that city is just like, I don't know how they keep rebuilding it so damn quick. Like, they're just like, they rebuild and hope, okay, let's hope if there's another kaiju, let's hope it chooses another city. Nope! They moved to one city at first, but then Tokyo's like the next thing in their way.
Yeah, they go to one city, they go to another city at first, but they're like, yeah, it's not the same as Tokyo. Let's go to Tokyo.
Yeah, so it's like a kaiju vacation spot, pretty much. Like, Tokyo is a kaiju's favorite, like, vacation spot. But in all honesty, the one kind of like odd thing about this movie, well, not odd, but one crazy thing is, like, of course, like, Toho loves showing off like monster fights, and I love, like, how they have the final battle between Kong and Mechanic Kong on Tokyo Tower. And it's so weird, like, you even notice this, like, some of the puppetry work on this fight is kind of weird. Like, you can tell they were two small puppets hanging off the tower, and they're swinging at each other. And they were swinging at each other. That would just look goofy. Like, that was really, I don't know what that was. That was just so weird the way the final fight was done on Tokyo Tower. Like, I will admit, it's a nice callback to Kong climbing a building, but at the same time, it's like, that fight could have been done a little better. If it was on the ground, it would have been better. Like, if Kong punched Mechanic Kong's head off, and Mechanic Kong blew up or something.
You know, sort of like how Godzilla did the same to Mechagodzilla in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, just full on, like, I don't really remember how he did it, but I do remember that
he twisted his head off. Like, Godzilla twisted Robo-G's head off, and the head literally just pops off, and it's dangling by a spring. And it's just dangling by a spring. But that honestly would have been a lot better for that fight if they didn't. I mean, climbing the tower, I get it. It's a nice little King Kong fan service thing. But the execution just would have been...
I mean, you can't really have a King Kong film without
him
Kong
climbing buildings.
Climbing a building, so...
Yeah, I know. That's actually... And, you know, that just proves that Toho even... What's actually crazy is... before the first Godzilla movie came out, the effects director, E.G. Tsuburaya, who did the effects on this movie too, by the way. In this movie, you had the big Toho 3. Like, you got Ishiro Honda as the director, Tomoyuki Tanaka as the producer, and E.G. Tsuburaya is the guy doing the special effects in this movie. Like, you see a Toho movie with those three names, you know it's going to be good. Like, you know this is going to be a fun movie.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And the one weird thing is, like, I just wish they could have just had the whole fight on the ground and just, it would have looked better. That final battle would have looked better if it was on the ground and Kong was, the buildings he would climb would be like, he would jump on them for a bit and then jump back down. You know what I mean? Like, he would jump to dodge. And I love Mechanic Kong's introduction in the Tokyo fight, where he just walks through a building. Like, he could have just easily walked around the building, but no, that wouldn't have been a cool enough introduction.
Just like any stereotypical cliche monster has to crash through the building to make a dramatic entrance.
Yeah, exactly. So, and the building destruction, you ever notice that how very little city destruction is in this movie?
That's true. Yeah, I just realized that now.
Like, the only things that really get destroyed is Doctor Who's base. Like, that's it. Like, and it's not even the whole base, it's only one section. Like, one section of Doctor Who's base gets destroyed. In Tokyo, it's like like one piece of Tokyo Tower and one building.
Tokyo got off lucky this time around because only very few buildings were damaged.
Yeah, exactly. So that was so weird how it's like with everything else, with people in suits and all the miniature sets, like Toho showed off that a lot in this movie, but they didn't show off the destruction scenes, which is kind of like, I kind of wish they did that a little more. I kind of wish they showed that a little bit more in this movie. But and also, there is a lot of extras in this movie when it comes to the Tokyo scene.
Yeah.
There is a lot of extras. And actually, one thing about Toho is that when they show the military, that's actual Japanese military they have in this movie. Like, they actually have military personnel in their movies to make it more realistic. Which
how much fun must that be? Because to be in the military must be it's very
challenging.
It's a very uneasy lifestyle, and it takes a lot of that. Yeah. So to be asked by a movie studio, the director, "Oh, do you want to be in a monster flick for a little while?" Hell yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of gives you more. It kind of gives people a little more excitement in their life.
Brightness in your life.
Exactly. Yeah. Not to say that being in the military is a bad thing. You're serving your country, but at the same time, though, when you're asked to be in a movie, when you're asked to be in a
lifestyle, when it takes a lot out of you.
It does, yeah. But so to be asked to, be in a
I was gonna say, there's a fucking hell. Sorry about that. There was a fucking cockroach running up my leg.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's only a tiny little one. One of the native species. They're actually quite pretty. Those are the ones I don't prefer to kill. But with the invasive species, I like as long as your finger and just like eat all your food in your kitchen and stuff. Yeah. I just fucking destroy them.
Yeah. Well, then. Thank God they're not. Thank God they're not aliens like in Men in Black. Thank God they're not like giant carnivorous.
Kind of because they're an invasive species. They're not originally from here. So.
Well, true, but just be happy that they're not like they don't stand 10 feet tall. Thank God they don't stand 10 feet tall. Have teeth.
The bug. Yeah.
The bug. Yeah. Thank God they're not like him. Thank God they're not. Thank God they're not like him.
What was his name? It was Egner or something. Edna or Egner?
Edgar.
Yeah. Edgar the bug.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm sorry, folks, for getting off topic, but on the subject of random cockroach.
Yeah, just a fucking random cockroach running up. I just feel it tickling through my leg hair. It's like, what the fuck?
No, but you know what? Actually, speaking of bugs, would you ever wanted to see Kong fight a giant bug as like a carboniferous reference? Like a giant dragonfly or something?
That's a good point. We never really see him fight any...
giant bugs.
Arthropods, like an arachnid or a crustacean or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, mainly he fights reptiles. Like, it's mainly reptiles Kong likes to pick a fight with. He just
doesn't like reptiles, man. He really doesn't.
But, yeah, is there anything else you want to say about... Is there anything else, like, that you want to say about this movie?
Well, with this film, because, like with Son of Kong, there's a little to talk about, but there's not as much to talk about. So, just let me think. So, when it comes to kaiju films, I'm a huge fan of the Showa. The Showa will always top all the others as my personal favourite. And it isn't that this film isn't one of the weaker installments in the Toho library, but as a Kong film only, I would say it is. And so, accounts on Instagram that are Kong fan accounts, and they don't really bring this film up. So, like I said, it's rather forgettable. And because of that, I am going to give this film a 5.5 out of 10, 5.5 out of 10. What do you think, bro?
Honestly, I give this movie a straight up like 7 out of 10 because the only things that I just find off are the different is Kong's like his appearance keeps changing a bunch throughout this movie. That's like my only thing off with it, but other than that, like as a Kong movie, I would definitely say like I would honestly recommend it as both a Kong movie and a Toho movie because I recommend it as.
I've got to say, I do agree with you slightly on your score. Like, okay, so I'm going to do a double-side score of this. So as a Kong movie, 5.5 out of 10. As a Toho flick, a Toho kaiju flick, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10.
7.5. And like the main thing about this movie is like this movie, it's like it just shows off like outside of Godzilla. It's just one of those good. It's one of the like the good ones where Toho just it shows off what it does, like the suits, the miniature sets, the music, and just like Toho just has this little like creative charm to it when it comes to coming up with monster movies.
Definitely. I couldn't have put that better myself. It always has this sense of charm to all its movies.
Exactly, and yeah, definitely. So I've just never seen any movie get a double score, but because of the fact that KingKongescapes, it's a solo Kong. Sorry, Tong. I almost said
Tong.
It's a Tong movie. Ting Tong. Oh my god. Oh god. Ting Tong. Ting Kong. Okay, I'm sorry. I almost said. Oh god. Hold on a minute.
You want to just compose yourself?
I'm sorry. Like, okay, so that is. Ting Kong. Oh my god.
Ting Tong. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm encouraging him.
I'm sorry. But anyways, yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and also please come follow me follow my boy here, Jurassic World Monsterverse, on Instagram. Link to his Instagram will be in the description below, and then come follow me on Instagram as well. So yeah, this is Tim W. Rago, and
Jurassic World Monsterverse 2. Have a good one, folks, and we'll see you in the next one.